The Man in the High Castle, written by Philip K. Dick and published in 1962, is a compelling and immersive alternate history novel, and is both a commentary on the hope fiction can bring and a sobering parable on the normalization of tyranny, with one subtext more successful than the other. The Man in the High Castle depicts an alternate 20th century in which the Axis powers won World War II and conquered much of the world. The Japanese Empire and the Greater Nazi Reich are the world's two competing superpowers, and the United States has been split into three separate nations: the Japanese-run Pacific States of America on the west coast, the Nazi-run United States of America on the east coast, and the Rocky Mountain States, a neutral buffer zone between them. Much of the novel's events take place in the PSA, and a major motif is The Grasshopper Lies Heavy, a widely banned but very popular novel depicting an alternate history in which the Allies won. The novel has simple yet evocative prose and engaging characters with well-defined personalities. Every major character undergoes some degree of development, whether to progress the plot, in the case of machine worker Frank Frink and his judo instructor ex-wife Juliana, or for personal growth within the setting, in the case of antique dealer Mr. Childen or PSA trade official Mr. Tagomi, who each mutually move beyond their prejudices and find some small respect for the other's culture. I also love how all the characters are intricately connected, even across national borders. Mr. Tagomi requires a gift of fine pre-war Americana for a visiting industrialist from Mr. Childen, who has unknowingly accepted forgeries from the company Ed McCarthy and Frank Frink formerly worked for, of whom the latter is being targeted for extradition by the Nazi secret police, and whose ex-wife Juliana Frink is traveling to Cheyenne, Wyoming with semi-boyfriend Joe Cinadella to meet the author of The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. And all of these characters are either reading this book or using the I Ching Oracle to determine their future. The Man in the High Castle has an open-ended, pessimistic conclusion with the distinct possibility of nuclear annihilation on the horizon, but Juliana has the most decisive and positive character arc. She thwarts an assassination plot and regains agency in her life after it was essentially hijacked by the alluring yet intimidating Joe. The most striking aspect of The Man in the High Castle is its potent atmosphere. The novel depicts a world that is nightmarish on a broader scale, with Africa purged of natives and Jews and Slavs driven to extinction, but surprisingly and disconcertingly mundane on the level of individuals. In the PSA, while the Japanese are the dominant demographic, and whites and other minorities are treated as second-class citizens, life is fairly prosperous and relatively free. While the PSA is controlled by a white puppet government, which answers to the Japanese home islands, there appears to be freedom of the press, given that The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is legal there, freedom to set up and run businesses, with the Wyndham Matson Company being a very successful white-run enterprise, and no explicit laws regarding race or religion, as the Japanese express open disdain for the Nazis' genocidal policies. The Man in the High Castle would have no doubt compelled contemporary readers, and readers to this day, to examine their present in multiple ways. The discrimination and low social status white Americans experience in the novel is roughly equivalent to the experiences of real-world African Americans, Native Americans, and immigrants at the time, and even now. With the roles reversed in this way, many white readers would have no doubt considered their inherent privilege in Western society. Moreover, since the novel presents life in the PSA as relatively comfortable, despite it being a conquered nation whose former identity is slowly fading away, the novel warns us not to let tyranny gain a foothold through our own complacency. The Man in the High Castle presents a totalitarian scenario that wouldn't be so bad, which is somehow even scarier. I was drawn to The Man in the High Castle partly because I enjoy alternate history fiction, but also because the novel's divided America reminded me of East of West, one of my favorite comic books. East of West is a sprawling Western techno-fantasy epic set in an alternate future America that emerged from an extended, more racially charged civil war. What was once a single nation is now 7, the United States of America, the Confederate States of America, the Republic of Texas, the Kingdom of New Orleans, an extremely wealthy sovereign state of Black Americans, the Endless Nation, a sovereign state of Native Americans, the People's Republic of America, a communist nation founded by Chinese Marxists, and Armistice, which oversees the uneasy truce between countries. The series is dark, beautifully illustrated, and endlessly inventive, deftly blending political schemes and treachery with futuristic technology and magic, and the core protagonist is Death, of the Horseman of the Apocalypse, who seeks to avert the end of days and reclaim his long-lost son. Through frequent references to The Grasshopper Lies Heavy, The Man in the High Castle provides commentary on how fiction influences our worldview, and the book becomes almost a metafictional mirror of ourselves. Many characters throughout the novel are reading The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. Some find hope in its scenario of an Allied victory, such as Juliana, others express disdain toward it, such as Joe, and others find it disturbing, such as secret police official Hugo Rice. But every reader finds it provocative, and their diverse reactions speak to our fascination with thoughts of what could have been. As we read the real novel, and as the characters read the fictional novel, the thoughts of reader and character are unified in contemplation of what if. Hawthorne O. Benson, the author of The Grasshopper Lies Heavy, is effectively an author-insert version of Philip K. Dick himself, and there is a slightly eerie sense of the characters glimpsing our own world, and therefore us, as they read The Grasshopper Lies Heavy, just as we're peering into their world. The Man in the High Castle has engaging characters, smooth pacing, and vivid descriptions, but it does sour a little by the end. While I like the narrative voice Dick assumes during Mr. Tagomi's sections, as it tactfully emulates Tagomi and other Japanese expatriates' manner of speech, the prose becomes extremely verbose toward the end. I also found Juliana's encounter with Benson to be quite contrived. Benson admits to using the Oracle to help craft his book, and when Juliana begs to know why he wrote it, the Oracle brings up inner truth, implying that the Allies really did win World War II, and truth was speaking through Benson. While this conclusion is another disarming metafictional reference to us, the readers, it comes across as a trite, treacly cop-out. A compelling, engrossing novel that kind of peters out in the last few pages, The Man in the High Castle is a powerful examination of our present through a dark tangent of the past, and earns 4 stars out of 5. A cast list for The Man in the High Castle is slightly moot now, as there is already a current TV adaptation on Amazon. Still, here is my cast list for a hypothetical film adaptation. As Robert Childen, I would cast Martin Freeman. Childen is a bitter yet gifted salesman who alternately fawns over and resents the Japanese, and Freeman is a versatile actor who would fit his reedy cunning well. As Mr. Tagomi, a dignified yet insecure man with a pronounced anxiety about social status, an easy choice would be the somber, authoritative Ken Watanabe. As Paul and Betty Kasuras, a young Japanese couple who Mr. Childen befriends, I would cast 2 recent Godzilla actors, Masahiro Matsuoka, who played Ozaki in Godzilla Final Wars, and Yumiko Shaku, who played Akane in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Frank Frank is a meek yet resourceful machine worker who's persuaded to enter the jewelry business, and he is weary from having to hide his Jewish identity. I would cast actor and Mad TV performer Ike Barinholtz. The fact that Barinholtz himself is Jewish would make the casting choice resonate with more authenticity. The role of Juliana Frink requires an actress who is physically fit, as the character is a judo instructor, and who can convey both confidence and strong self-doubt. My mind immediately went to Emily Blunt, who is a sensitive, poignant actress and a great action lead, as proven in Edge of Tomorrow, but then I had an idea. Wonder Woman star Gal Gadot embodies all those qualities too, and casting an Israeli Jewish actress as the film's heroine, much like casting Ike Barinholtz as Frank, would be a great meta middle finger to the film and book's xenophobic setting. As Joe Cinedella, I initially cast Zachary Quinto, as he is part Italian and very good at charming yet intimidating personas. But then I remembered that Joe is supposed to be younger than Juliana, so I chose Matthew Daddario, who is also part Italian, and incidentally, Alexandra Daddario's hunky younger brother. Daddario could easily pull off Joe's tall, dark and handsome yet vaguely sinister character. As Mr. Baines, a Nazi defector posing as a Swedish industrialist, I would cast Alexander Skarsgård. I would want the role of Hawthorne Benson to be played by a veteran actor willing to embody public preconceptions of celebrity, then have fun subverting and taking the piss out of them. Juliana assumes Hawthorne to be a wise, lordly figure, but he turns out to be evasive and irritable, and very blasé about the impact of his book. Hawthorne could be played by Ben Kingsley, Anthony Hopkins, Ian McKellen, Michael Caine, or Stephen Fry. I'm sure any of those actors would enjoy satirizing the romanticized images people have of them. But since Gadot and Barinholtz are both Jewish, I want to continue this trend of text-subverting casting, and so Hawthorne Benson would be played by Morgan Freeman. The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is a cause of great offense to the Nazi regime, and having its author be a black man would make it an even bigger thorn in the Reich's xenophobic side. I left Hugo Rice for last, despite him being a relatively minor character, because my choice of actor may ruffle some feathers. I would cast Chris Evans, Captain America himself, in this role. Casting Gadot, Barinholtz, and Morgan Freeman subverts the source material, but casting Evans would be a daring double subversion. Having Evans, who is quarter German, as a Nazi official would be an ironic jab at Marvel's Captain America was a Hydra agent all along fiasco, and he does kinda look like Nazi Germany's image of the ideal Aryan man, especially when he has blonde hair. But if this is inappropriate, then I cast Ben Affleck as Hugo Reis. Since Affleck, who like Evans is part German, currently plays Batman in the DCEU, casting him as Reis would be an act of subtle meta-commentary on Batman's fascist underpinnings. I hope you enjoyed my cast list. If you've read the book, let me know what you think of my list. Thanks for watching. Cheers.